Buzz's retirement garage here on a beautiful Sunday. I'm actually sitting in my tomato garden, my sincere tomato garden. As some of you know, I've got about 32 plants. Just a couple different varieties. My wife likes the rainbow tomato called Rainbow, Big Rainbow. And I've got a few other types in there, but some cherry tomatoes, etc. But the purpose of this video today is twofold. One, to reminisce a bit about the past, and two, to tell you why or when you became an adult. Not the why part, but the when part. No, I don't have the exact day, but I can tell you when you became an adult. So I'm doing my gardening and I'm, working on the soil, and it reminded me of when I was young. We used to go to a elementary school, and it was within walking distance, and it had all the old playground equipment that is I think banned or banished for sure, because people would get hurt on it. Now everything is made safely for the children. But back then, when we would walk up to this school, and I'm talking like 8, 9 years old, and we would go play, there was a woods. And when I say woods, it's, back 100 years ago, they cleared all of the land for farming in my area. And of course, so they left some of the tall trees, but most of it was cut down so that they could farm. So when I say woods, it's more of an area with a bunch of weeds, some blackberries, raspberries, and some tall trees that were left either as a border or they just left them for whatever reason. So one day I was out there and at the playground by myself, and it was a hot day, 8, 9 years old, and I looked over towards the woods and it looked like a real shady spot. So I went over there and, playing around in the woods, just, picking up sticks, doing different things, throwing like a spear or using them as a fake gun or something, just being a kid. And it was late afternoon, and I ended up, there's a path that the big kids, right, the big kids would go through this woods on their way to pick blackberries or raspberries or whatever. So there's a little bit of a path, and it was, just a dirt path. Well, I ended up laying down there, and I just laid on the path on my way back to the playground. I was tired, I guess, and I laid on that path. And the breeze was blowing so nice. The sun was filtering through the leaves of a big tree next to that path, so I didn't have direct sunlight. And I fell asleep there. And let me tell you something. When I woke up, and I can still remember this like it was yesterday, I felt so good, so peaceful. And it was so strange, because even to this day, I remember, of all the moments in your life that you can remember, remembering this is kind of strange. But I just remember I woke up and it just felt so great. I don't know if it was a half an hour or an hour. I don't know how long I slept there, but it was fantastic. So I bring that up because as I'm tilling the garden and working the garden, I don't want to lay down in my garden, because you can never, as they say, you can never go home again. I could never replicate that feeling that I had back then. Never again. I guarantee that. Never. Hasn't happened since that time, and I doubt if it'll ever happen again. But I got to be thinking, and this is part 2. When did you become an adult? And I can tell you, from that episode and thinking about that, you became an adult when you got your first wristwatch. When you put that first wristwatch on, your life changed. When you were a kid, you knew what time it was just by looking at the sun. You knew, you could feel in the air when it was 9 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the evening, especially in the summer when you're out playing. You knew. You didn't have to ask anybody what time it was. You could tell. Now maybe you weren't precise to the minute, of course, but you could tell what time it was. But the second, the minute you put that wristwatch on, you conformed. You conformed to, I need to know what time it is. I have to know what time it is. I have to be someplace. I have to do something. And I have to use this timepiece to direct my life. So that's when you became an adult. When you put that watch on, and I tell you what, I haven't worn a watch in I don't know how many years. Of course, I worked in a factory, and wearing watches and you know, getting close to machinery and stuff like that is kind of a no-no, but you could still do it. But I just never wore one in the workplace. Now, of course, I had my cell phone, which had the time on it, right? So that replaced, but I don't have one of those. I'm an Android fan, so I don't have an iPhone watch, iWatch or whatever they call it. I don't have any of that fancy stuff. And if you do, that's great. To be more connected, to be more of an adult, good for you. But in retirement, from 8 years old not having a watch to now I'm retired not having a watch, I can tell by looking at the sun, I'm back to being a kid. I'm back to knowing what time it is by just checking the skies. I can tell, you know, when it's getting close to dinner time. I can feel when it's, you know, getting towards dusk. I don't need a watch to tell me that anymore. And yeah, if I have an appointment somewhere, sure, I have to look at a clock. But that's when you became an adult. As soon as you put that wristwatch on, and you thought it was cool because, hey, I'm wearing a watch. You know, my father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, friend gave me a watch. Maybe you got it for your birthday. Maybe you went with your parents to go buy one. Your first watch was probably an old Timex. But as soon as you strapped that on, adulthood started, childhood ended. Anyway, Buzz's Retirement Garage, my thought for today as I sit in the garden and know I won't lay down, because I said I can't replicate that feeling. Happy Sunday to all of you, and we'll talk to you next week.